We just wanted to kind of, I think, not only kind of give an update of what's going on, but also talk a little bit about the budget and what it looks like so far. The Speaker and I were able to wrap up some of the bigger issues last night and come to kind of a conclusion, which I think will be kind of the last step for the Finance Committee, which is to take their final day of votes, and then we'll have a product, a legislative product out of the Finance Committee. So that's why we have the co-chairs here. But first, I'll turn it over to the Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Fitzgerald. I want to thank Senator Fitzgerald, Alberta Darling, Luther Olson, my colleagues in the Assembly for a good, vigorous discussion of all of the issues that are inside the Wisconsin state budget. I'm going to turn it over to the co-chairs in a minute just to talk about some of the details. But yesterday, I think we were able to sit down in good faith, put together a structure that is going to allow us to finish the budget, get it to the governor's desk, and have a path that we can show exactly why the things that are inside this budget are good for Wisconsin, they're good for the taxpayers, and ultimately they're going to showcase again why Republicans are moving the state forward. So to talk a little bit about the budget and some of the details, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Darling.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's being here. You know, we received a really tough budget, tough and challenging, and I think what you see is the legislature improved the budget significantly. The three issues I'd like to talk about would be K-12 education, where we increased the funding for the first year, are increasing funding by $200 million and increasing the funding per pupil by $100. For the UW system, which we were really concerned about, we improved we decreased the cut, improved the funding by $50 million, but most importantly, we added flexibility so that the university system could use their resources better and make their decisions under their umbrella and not having to run back to the legislature. I think these improvements are like major tools that will be very helpful to use their existing resources, so I'm very proud that we could use the two main priorities were K-12 education and higher ed, and we have other priorities which Representative Nygren will talk about. But we're very happy we can say we listened to the people throughout the state, we improved this budget, and we think we can go forward as a state. So that's really good news. Representative Nygren.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Darling. Well, first of all, as the Senator had said, every step along the way, I mean, the way this process works, everybody knows, is the governor produces his budget and then it becomes the legislature's budget. And every step along the way, whether it be the public hearings or the agency briefings, we asked the tough questions, we made the tough decisions, and I think at the end of the day, this budget's going to be better because of it, and the state's going to be better because of it. Some of the things that we heard as we were traveling throughout the state dealt with things like senior citizens and just the disabled, dealing with our IRIS, our family care, and our ADRCs. And we listened and we made changes to assure that those services that people have come to protect in the state of Wisconsin, or come to expect in the state of Wisconsin, will be protected. So we're pretty excited about moving forward on that issue. In addition to that, obviously Medicaid. This is the third budget I've been involved in, and during that period of time, we've invested additional $2 billion into our Medicaid programs here in the state of Wisconsin to protect the people that need those services the most, to people that need a hand up. And I think we're all proud of our commitment to the Medicaid program here in our state. In addition to that, one of the voices we hear over and over again is seniors and dealing with prescription drugs. This has been a target. We're the only state in the country to have our own unique prescription drug program, senior care. But once again, Republicans stepped up and protected that program and continue to provide that resource for seniors here in our state. In addition to that, always a priority of the Republicans in the legislature is providing tax relief, especially for middle-class families. And you're going to see reductions to the marriage penalty here in our state. You're going to see a more aggressive tax structure that's going to be more fair and more balanced. And that's something that I think we all can be very proud of. And we're looking forward to taking this budget up in Joint Finance tomorrow. I appreciate the work of the Majority Leader and the Speaker to address some of the remaining issues, such as transportation. We are going to be funding the priorities in transportation in our state, and I think that at the end of the day, the public is going to be well served by our transportation system.
Questions?
What's in it?
Transportation, we've obviously had a good long discussion about making sure that we have the possibility of having a good, robust transportation system in our state. Of course, in the very beginning, we had a concern about Governor Walker's proposed level of bonding. I think both caucuses shared that concern. So we worked together to actually reduce the level of bonding. It's going to be $500 million in transportation level bonding, an additional $350 million in bonding that will be in the joint finance appropriation. So they will have the opportunity to review the projects as the DOT submits those to make sure that they meet the goals of trying to grow the economy, ensure that we have the very smartest and best transportation system. We're also going to include money in there to do a study on looking for other potential revenue sources. Some of those things could be tolling. That's one possible option. But we want to at least look to the future and say, what are the options for us to at least figure out a long-term strategy to not rely on bonding. And I think that in our discussions, we have taken a very positive step there to say that we're going to greatly reduce the level of transportation bonding to make sure that that fund is more stable over the long run.
Does the zoo get impacted by that?
The Core 2 will continue to be funded. That will be finished under our agreement. But the north leg of the zoo will be put on hold, just like other projects around the state will be. It'll be approximately half in each. It might be a little bit more outstate, but it's pretty close. We wanted to try to find that balance. That was one of the priorities for our caucus, was to make sure that the cuts did not entirely impact outstate. We have about an equal share.
Is there a path to funding the arena?
There is. I think one of the more difficult decisions that we had, and we had a thorough discussion in the State Senate caucus yesterday about whether or not the arena should remain in the budget or out of the budget. I think a lot of my members felt early on that there was value in having Democrats that represent Milwaukee County or the city of Milwaukee also support the arena proposal, which also meant, probably the cleanest way of doing that was to make sure that the bill was not in the state budget. So I'm very optimistic. I've been having ongoing discussions, just speaking for myself, with both Wes Edens and Peter Fagan over the last couple of weeks about, is there some other things we can do to make sure that we are able to gather the votes. And the other thing would be, I spoke with Senator Schilling last night, and they are certainly going through the arena proposal right now, trying to gather as much information and understanding as they need to support it. But I'm certainly hoping that there will be Democrat senators, from my perspective, that will support the arena deal, and there will be enough votes to get the arena completed. I'm very optimistic. Also, based on the conversations we've had with our own caucus on the level of support within the state Senate. So,
Just let me comment on that too. I feel good about that as well. I've also had conversations with Representative Barca to talk about the possibility, now that we have decided that the Bucks Arena is going to be a standalone bill. I already know that Governor Walker's office reached out to us, and I think we're scheduled tomorrow to have the 4 leaders sit down with Governor Walker to talk about a strategy of ensuring that we can get bipartisan support for a bill that builds a new arena in Milwaukee. So that's also ongoing as we have the discussion about taking it outside the budget. Governor Walker's leading on that, and that's why we're having a meeting with him tomorrow.
What about you've got members who have said that they won't vote for the budget without prevailing wage. Do you have the votes for this without prevailing wage in it?
This is a difficult issue, I think, that has also been something that's been kind of hanging us up on full completion of the budget. But I think where the Speaker and I landed on it in the end was that we wanted the Finance Committee to come in and complete their work. And if that issue needed to be dealt with separately, then that was something that we could work out. We might have a little bit different approach on how we do that. I'll let the Speaker talk about what his strategy is. But certainly in the Senate, there is a core group of senators that wants something that is closer to full repeal. And as a result of that, I still think it could play into my gathering of votes in the state Senate right now as we stand here today. So there certainly is a lot of emphasis and a lot of momentum, I think, to do that. But I also have some members that have been kind of hanging on to a lesser product, and that's what I have to iron out in our caucus. But my point is, this is something that will happen after the Finance Committee takes their final action.
So, Senator, you do not have the votes for the budget as you stand there right now.
So our goal is the Assembly is going to go first with the budget. So we are hoping, we have a leadership meeting today. We still have to talk about it with our own caucus. But our goal is to bring up the budget next Tuesday or Wednesday. On the same day that we bring up the budget, it's my intention to bring forward the bill that passed the Assembly Labor Committee dealing with a full repeal of prevailing wage. I will talk to our caucus. I assume what we will do is we will offer some of the language that's been discussed in the Senate by Senator Lassay and others to be able to have that as an amendment on the floor to that prevailing wage repeal bill. So I predict that by the time the budget is finished, we will send both bills a repeal of portions, at least. I mean, the Lassay language, I presume that will pass our chamber. We will send that to the state Senate along with the budget, and then they'll deal with it in their chamber in their own way. That's our plan to deal with it in the Assembly.
On the transportation piece of things, so it's $500 million, $350 million that the Finance Committee gets to decide what projects get done. Does that get dicey where things could get political if the Finance Committee has to decide what gets done?
I mean, what we're expecting is that DOT would come back with recommendations on what makes sense about specifically the letting process. And I got to be honest with you, kind of as we sit here today, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out once we get to that point. But, I mean, your characterization, I think, of there's $350 million in bonding and a number of projects that still have to be let. Yeah, that's true. And those decisions will have to be made with leadership and the Finance Committee and the rest of the caucuses.
And the final decision on whether or not a certain number of projects gets done is going to be not with the DOT deciding to do it, it's going to be with the Finance Committee.
Well, just like a lot of agencies come to us with requests, the DOT will make requests for potential funding outside from that bonding. It will probably be project specific or dealing with several projects, and the Finance Committee will use their wisdom to decide if they want to issue bonds for those projects. I think it's a good creative way the Senate offered that. It's a nice way to be able to have additional opportunities to make sure we invest in roads, but do it in a way that's as fiscally prudent as we can.
Do either set of leadership have votes to pass the budget?
No, I don't have the votes right now as we stand here, but I don't expect to have the votes. There's still a number of members, specifically outside the Finance Committee, that have talked to me about things that they might want to see added or deleted from the budget. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward.
Does the MPS plan to seize control of failing schools, animal related counties, is that part of this budget?
Yes.
It is as of now.
Yes. Representative Nygren, can you talk about procedurally how will joint finance go? Will it be a transportation package and a tax package and a final motion? Or are we just going to have one big motion on Thursday?
Well, that hasn't been determined yet, but I think most likely you're going to have 1 to 2 motions and then a wrap-up motion.
How long is that wrap-up motion right now? I've heard 70 pages.
You're up. You're on, man. So can you guys talk, so you're going to go on Tuesday with a budget and a prevailing wage repeal bill. When are you going to go? How is that going to work? And might you then have to send it back to them? So this might take a couple of weeks for final passage of the budget? I'm trying to guess.
Yeah, I mean, every plan by design always can fall apart, but I certainly on board with what the speaker had kind of laid out and what we had discussed. But I'm always leery. If we would go first on the arena in the Senate, how long is it going to take for us to get to the point where we're confident that there is a bipartisan minimum of 17 votes to get that plan through? But certainly, I think we're working on that, and that's why the meeting with the governor and Senator Schilling, from my perspective, will be important to see just how close are we and how many votes do we have right now. It's pretty difficult to tell right now.
As you look at your votes in your caucus right now, how much Democratic support do you anticipate needing?
I don't want to, I guess, forecast that because I'm not really sure. I mean, I had a very productive meeting with 4 of the Democrat senators in my office last week. I thought it was very upbeat. A lot of discussion about what's in the plan. Some talk about, are there things outside of the plan itself? As somebody that went through Miller Park, that was kind of the little bit of horse trading that went on certain provisions. But, I don't know that that's going to be something that we're going to have a lot of control over. I mean, I think the plan is the plan. I think it's a good plan. And I don't think there's going to be, if any, I don't think there's going to be much change at all.
Who's going first on the plan? Do you take the plan up first, or does the Senate take the plan up first with Bucks?
Right now, the way the speaker and I laid it out was that the Senate would go first on the arena. That's the way we laid it out.
And a timeline on it, your guess? I know you're talking to the governor tomorrow, but what would be your hope?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I'm hopeful that the arena will be taken up next week in the Senate.
You know the next week?
What's that?
will you take up the budget next week?
If the Assembly can get a budget out and certainly send it over to us, then I mean, yeah, certainly our efforts will be towards trying to put together the votes for a budget as well.
And prevailing wage too next week in the Senate?
That's a little bit fuzzier for us because I don't know how much of a push I'm going to get from certain senators that have been using kind of full repeal as a bottom line, and I do have some of those senators. So I have to, once again, with the 19 members that I have to go back and do that head count.
So
Does
you don't
anybody
have
miss
the
all
votes for the.
three parts of this? Because joint finance has got to come back on transportation. We're not sure when the Senate takes up prevailing wage. We're not positive when the bucks get taken up. So what has been settled?
You sound a little fuzzy, but that's No, I mean, I think the announcement today is that the Joint Finance Committee is finalizing their actions, and there's always maneuvers that have to be made after that to try and make sure you have certainly the votes for any of those products, and I guess that's what I'm trying to lay out right now.
In order to ensure Democratic votes for the Bucks plan and to ensure it passes, would either of you be willing to have discussions on topics outside of that plan to make sure that happens?
We're taking the Bucks bill up as a standalone bill dealing with the arena. So my hope is that everybody comes to the table in good faith to talk about the issues that are related to the arena and helping to get votes for it in any of the 4 caucuses. We're not going to say, I'll put something in the budget if you'll get people to vote for the arena. That's not the way this is going to work. I am open to just about any suggestion possible to try to get the votes to make this happen. I'll take good ideas from anywhere, but I want to make sure that they are focused on the arena and not on issues that are totally unrelated to the arena.
Regarding the arena, what would you say to people who are concerned specifically with more than $100 million in interest regarding the center district portion of the bonding, and that money wouldn't be available for more than a decade?
Yeah, I think that the plan that we have put together, once again, we negotiated on behalf of the state. We have a fantastic plan if you're a taxpayer in the state of Wisconsin, because right now we will be able to spend $4 million while keeping $6.5 million minimum in revenue over the course of the process. We also know we put the bill out so the public can read it. We have had feedback from people. We're going to talk about it inside our caucuses. The Assembly is actually meeting with the Fiscal Bureau today so that all of our members have an opportunity to ask questions, to talk it through, and have a complete understanding before we take a head count, because we have said from the very beginning we wanted to make sure that people could read the bill, understand it, and ask questions. So we'll talk about that in our caucus, but obviously it's part of the process.
So Robin, just to clarify, you're taking up a bill that is full repeal of prevailing wage along with the budget next week.
Yeah, so what will happen is a full repeal bill, the Rob Hutton bill that was originally passed out of the Labor Committee, will be referred to the floor. We will be offering an amendment similar to the language that has been talked about by Senator Lissay in the Senate. I predict that we will pass that bill. Our leadership team is going to work to make sure that that bill can go to the Senate, where they also can have a discussion of the topic. The one thing that I have heard from all of the supporters of prevailing wage repeal is give it a vote. Have an opportunity to have the up or down vote and let people know where they stand. That is our plan to do that, to go to the floor, give people an opportunity to express if they want to have it or not, and then hopefully the bill will pass. It will go to the Senate. They'll have the same opportunity to do so.
The language you're talking about amending is the threshold language, the 60%. That you're referring to?
There's more. No, it's not the proposal. We're trying to meet the Senate. I mean, obviously, we wanted to put a proposal out there on Monday. I still think that is a good first step, but there are many in our caucus who want to go further. And that's why we wanted to show that if we're not going to have it as a negotiated part of the budget, we wanted to put it out there. We're going to take a vote. We're going to have a vote that will, I think, pass the Assembly, and then we'll go to the Senate.
All right, thanks, everyone. That's good. Thank you. Bye.